Good evening, everybody. So, tonight, what's in your sluice box? I thought it might be time to take a little detour, give you a little tip. So we're going to do a quick journey through how a sluice box functions and a little bit about what's called hydrodynamics, or the dynamics of fluids. I have a background in fluid mechanics, so I'm not going to try to swamp you with all the good stuff and Reynolds number and all those good things with viscosity and water flow and integrals and yuck. Okay, the basic gist of it is I'm going to draw a little drawing and I'm going to explain why things work the way they do and why tuning your sluice box one way will work while using it on a different kind of gold material. It won't work the same way. And so you have to understand that every time you use your sluice box, you need to tune it for what you're looking for. So let's get on with that. I'll show you in a second. Again, we have the Gold Prospectors collection, government gold maps offer. So that basically covers how to make maps we've been talking about for the last few weeks, and that's how you can zero in on the gold spots near you. That's just the tip of the iceberg. You want to know how that stuff goes downhill from there and downstream from those points into the placer lodes you're finding. But the basic idea is, if you know where the lode is, you know the source for some of the gold that's in your area. What you don't know is there are other sources that are not in the MRDS system, and that's what I cover in this Government Gold Maps report. I talk a little bit about how to use the tool, but also what the tool means and how to use it with the context of finding gold near you. So with that said, let's move on to our topic for the night. I thought what we would do is just kind of jump over to the blackboard for a moment. But before we go there, let me explain something. So when water moves, it typically will move downstream, and it wants to go in what's called laminar flow. It wants to flow in straight streamlines, okay? Unless something disturbs it or unless it exceeds a certain speed. So in typical streams, when you're not dealing with the kind of raging waters we have right now with all the flooding going on, the waters will start to settle down and they will flow in these laminar flows, they call them, or streamlines. And that has a certain property. If you introduce an obstacle in that streamline, you will cause the flow to deviate and in the process cause changes in the flow pattern. That's a disturbance. That disturbance will actually cause a little turbulent eddy. That's not a laminar flow. That's a nonlinear flow where it goes in a circle or goes in some other pattern. The idea is, if you can make it go in a predictable pattern, you can direct the things that are flowing with it: sand and gold and gravel. Okay, and so what we're going to talk about right now is the difference between different kinds of gold and different kinds of sands and gravels, and what that means to you when it comes to tuning your sluice box. So let's take a look. So this is my handy dandy sluice box diagram. No laughter, please, and you too. Dog's sitting there barking next door, and the dog down here is kind of letting me have it. He wants to get out and bark too. So the idea is the water will flow laminar. So that means the stream flow is going in this direction toward Prospector Jess, and actually heading out this way, hopefully, when it's all done. Now, when that happens, the water flows along these riffles and it strikes them in such a way that it wants to flow over them. When it flows over them, it tends to go down in a pattern that looks like this and then start back up again. But what it's going to do is it's going to form a little curlicue and go on to the next one, and want to go up here and form another curlicue and go on to the next one, and so forth. I didn't do that quite right. Let me erase that, because that's going to be confusing. So the idea is, as it flows over just one of these riffles, it's going to make this jump and curl around and come out the other side like that. When it does, the water flow is actually looping backwards at the top here. And any water that comes through this system will have to have a countercurrent that's going to flow in the same parallel direction. It cannot go in opposing flows, or the water stops. It goes what's called stagnant. It stagnates, zero velocity. So what's going to happen is, inside of here, there's going to be another flow that runs counter to that, like this. And so we have one curling this way, one curling this way. What does that do? Well, it says underneath here, change the colors a little bit. I'll make this gold look kind of grungy, I guess. Had a light colored background in my thing, so this is going to be a grunge colored gold, okay? Back in here, your gold is going to start piling up. And the idea is that it's going to pile up behind each of these riffles if we tune it right. So different size gold for different size riffles. Now, when we're working with the material we're feeding in, which we're feeding from this front end up here, and so we're feeding that material down, dropping right here, and as it traverses the riffles, you're going to find that it creates a situation where it piles up behind these guys. Now, if it's fine gold, here's the real gist of it. The different particles of gold will essentially drop at different rates because of the size of the particle. Now here's the fun part. The smaller the particle, the slower it's going to drop. So, and it drops basically in a parabolic fashion, like a ballistic, like a cannonball, okay? So a big chunk of gold is going to drop really fast, boom. But a small particle gold will have a lot longer to go because it has more friction. The smaller the particle, the further down it's going to go before it drops to the bottom. Those are not quite parabolas, but there'll be a parabolic kind of trajectory influenced by changes in the current, like these little rotational eddies that are forming. Now, what does that mean to you? Well, that means that essentially, if you have sands and gravels, if you have sands and small particles of gold, that means that the gold will essentially drop out slower, and so you'll need to go down further. What does that mean to you? Well, it means that you need to slow down your sluice box, or it's going to go out the back end here. It's going to drop out right here. And so to keep it trapped inside the sluice, preferably the fine material up at the top of the header, you're going to want to slow it down to something like 1 foot per second. Okay, that's sand. And fine gold. Now, if it were coarse gold, then we can pull up the speed because now we're dropping faster. So essentially it'll drop down here quicker. And this typically can go upwards of 1.5 feet per second. In other words, we can make the thing slope faster. The shallower the slope, so the shallower, let's see, let me do this right. So if I have my sluice tilted relative to the bottom of my screen, so you're looking at me like this, and if I raise the entry end and the bottom end is dropped down and it's still all submerged, the water coming out of this back end is going to be moving faster, 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 okay? So what I do is I adjust that sluice so that if I were to drop a stick, this is my stick, into this front end so it floats on the surface, it traverses a 3-foot sluice box in 3 seconds if I'm going for fine gold and sands. If on the other hand, I want to go and I've got a lot of gravels and cobbles and I think I'm getting nuggets and coarse gold, it drops pretty fast. I can process that material faster, raise it up a little bit more so it goes about 1.5 feet per second. So now, essentially, instead of taking 3 seconds to go down the whole sluice, okay, we are going to be going at 1.5 feet per second, and so it's only going to take a couple seconds to go down the whole sluice. Does that make sense? And so the idea is 3 seconds versus 2 seconds for this stick to go down. And that means that I can process more material without, because here's the thing you do not want to have happen. You don't want to have all your cobbles and gravels and stuff building up in here such that it completely plugs up this point in between here and here, these two sections, because at that point the sluice stops operating and all your gold bounces right over the top and out the end, and boom, you're gone. Where'd your gold go? And so you don't want to do that. You want to tune it so that it's optimally keeping half of this distance clean. You can see the green carpet below, or whatever carpet color you choose, and that this blue material up here, which I use miner's moss, but you could have special miracle matting or whatever matting you have, is uncovered so that the riffles are visible. The backside of the riffles further downstream is cleared, and the stuff behind the riffles is packed in with material. So essentially what you want to do is have a wedge of material that pretty much covers any finer golds in these, and the same thing holds true for these guys. So they would have a little tiny pile of sand going on here. Let me erase this whole mess. So essentially what you're going to want to do ideally is have a wedge of material behind each riffle that extends no further than half the distance to the next riffle. And so essentially, and that job of that material is to shelter any sands or fine gold that would essentially be heavy sands, black sands or fine gold, that are going to be buried in this area right in here and here and here. And for these guys, so that this stuff can retain its ability to saturate with gold and not get plugged up and have all the gold bounce on down the stream, because this is where all your fines are going to collect mostly, is right in this front section here. You'll have some drift on downstream, and you want to make sure you can capture it in any of this green matting that's down below, any of the finer catch material. But the objective is, if you start having it bounce down where you've got these higher turbulent areas, you're going to have, you know, lots of fine gold just spitting out the back end of your sluice, and then it's all over. So again, you know, 3 inches for a 3-foot sluice gets you some nominal flow at 1 foot per second for any kind of fine gold and sandy light gravel material. Heavier gravels and cobbles, you're going to want to pick up the speed, and therefore you tilt it up until it's moving down through there. I typically tune mine for about 3 seconds for that 3-foot sluice where I work a lot, and that works really well. If you find that the gold is working its way down into these latter sections right here, then you need to basically back off so that the gold moves, you know, basically doesn't deliver itself down to the last 2 riffles. How do you know? You can see it visibly. You can also see the buildup of material down there. If you're getting a lot of stuff plugging up down there, you're either moving too slow if you're plugging up, or if there's nothing building up down there, you're moving too fast. You're basically driving things right out the back end. You want a little buildup. You just don't want too much. And so that's tonight's tip for Prospector Jess. Back to the title page. So what's in your sluice box? Just drop that note to you on Friday. Have a good Friday evening, and enjoy. If you're watching Gold Rush, take care. And I'll see you tomorrow. Let's make sure we got everything coming through okay. Again, like I said earlier, check out the Government Gold Maps product, or check out the Gold Diggers Underground Prospectors Bonanza Club. I can't even say it. Oh dear. But check those things out and join us for the adventure. We've got quite a few people join this week. It's great. We're going to have a lot of fun prospecting together and finding more of this information, not just looking at the maps, but looking at where we're going and what adventures we're going to do with those maps. I'll dig into more of the geology. There's a pun intended there. But the idea is to take the time to learn what things drive gold, how you can find it, what rocks and minerals have to do with gold, what hydrology, as I talked about tonight, has to do with gold. Probably didn't really do justice. I have some other better materials in the GDU that go over this business of sluices and filling them up. Problem is using electronics versus using hand-drawn. Can't beat a hand-drawn drawing. So let's take a look and see who's on. We're on. Hey, there's 18 of you. Good. Thanks for joining me tonight. Good to see everybody. And let's check to make sure we got 12 comments already and 3 shares. So let's take a look and see who's on. We're on. Hey, there's 18 of you. Good. Thanks for joining me tonight. Good to see everybody. All right. So we got Texas. Brad Stevens is Texas. David Clark. Dang it, I just missed it. You haven't missed it. I'm still here. But it'll rewind when we're done. You can go back and watch the review. Any of these things are that way, and they show up a day or two later, sometimes a week later. Depends on whether I can get time enough to edit them to show up on YouTube. At Prospector Jess channel on YouTube. Subscribe. You get to find out what I'm up to. Like the Facebook page, and in both cases, turn on your notifications for both social channels, and anytime something like this goes live, it'll pester the socks off of you, which typically is once a day, sometimes more. So it's good to see you guys. Glad to see people are chiming in and raring to go. I hope you guys have plans for gold prospecting this weekend. We have another storm coming in, but it's acting kind of funny. It looks like it might or might not strike Southern California, but up in the gold country, it's going to pour. So stay safe, guys. Watch out for the flash floods. It's been really bad up. I got some pictures from up in the Sonora area, and boy, right through the parking lot of the local Save Mart. I mean, just took out everything. So, and that's the nature of this beast. You know, that's a tiny creek called Woods Creek, only it's not so tiny. And when it goes, and that's the kind of thing that can happen in any of these things. I saw another shot of the Yuba River, and it looks like it was about ready to take out a highway bridge on I think it's Route 49. So anyway, stay safe, good prospecting, and good gold. Go find that stuff, guys. Thanks for joining us.